That's right, everyone. I'm a professional voice actor now. So my friend Dano recently released the pilot of his web series called Toon Turf, and if you have not seen it, go watch it. You know, actually click off and go watch it. You know, go watch it instead of this video because it is absolutely phenomenal. I cannot express to you how insanely good it is. I actually voice a character in Toon Turf. I voice the orange fox named Feric, and you know, being on the special thanks list, you know, 4th on the special thanks list actually, right below Dano's therapist, his girlfriend Leia, and God. I think, you know, I had just as much involvement in the making of Toon Turf as probably Dano himself. Honestly, I can't think of anyone else that did nearly as much as me. Nah, in all seriousness, Dano probably did like 95% of the work on Toon Turf completely on his own. Like, it's actually insane. Like, the only things that he actually even like he even did a lot of the voice acting on his own, but most of what he didn't do was just voice acting and sound mixing, and that was kind of you can crouch at me all you want, I'm still gonna kill you. But I had more involvement in Toon Turf than most other people. I think there's only like maybe 1 or 2 people that was more involved than me. Like Dano was obviously, you know, did pretty much everything on his own, but I was. And then there was Nix the Shield, which did a lot of the audio mixing, so he was probably second. And then there's me. You know, the best friend of the guy who made it. So I want to just give a little bit of insight from my perspective into the making of Toon Turf from my end, and I think you might find that a little interesting. I'm just saying. Can I hit this guy? Oh my God! So Toon Turf became a concept way back, like probably like over. Oh my God, like almost 10 years ago, almost a decade at this point. It was a concept that long ago, because like he's had Toon Turf in his mind, or the concept of Toon Turf in his mind forever. Like, it's actually insane how long he's been thinking up Toon Turf. So, and I remember when he started talking about some of the characters that he had ideas for. The first character he made for Toon Turf, I think, was Lucky. I think Lucky was definitely the first one, and then the second one was Feric, I believe, the character that I voice. So there's that. I got the second character to be created. But he had this idea for Toon Turf that long ago, and like even all the way back then, back in like I want to say it was like might have been 2017, 2018 when he initially came up with it. He still had that same art style because, you know, he's just that type of guy. He had drawings of certain characters. Like I know, like Lucky was definitely the first one he made, and then it was Feric. And he actually, fun fact, this probably is known, but not mass knowledge. Feric was actually designed after me. Like, he designed Feric after me. So I got a DM from Pear the other day where he was complimenting me on my voice acting, and he said something along the lines of, you know, you just felt so in character, like you felt like you embodied the character. Yeah, the character's me. So if you think, wow, Cryo does so well, you know, voicing Feric, it really sounds like he's just in perfect character for it. Yeah, the character's made after me. You know, he designed the character with me voicing it in mind. But anyway, and it is still awesome getting to voice this character because like he's had it in his head for so long, and it was so cool seeing Toon Turf come to life after, you know, years of it being a planned thing in Dano's head. Oh my God, I'm getting jumped. But what else do I gotta say? I want to talk about, before I get into anything else, I want to talk about the voice acting when I actually did the voice lines. I don't know if you can hear it on my current audio quality, but there's definitely like a little bit of an echo in the background here, and I don't think my microphone is really the best. So that's not good for voice acting. So I actually went over to Dano's house to do my voice lines, which was actually pretty awesome, and I'll get into why. But I want to tell you right now, the very first thing I did when that microphone was in my hand was I immediately shoved it down my throat. So there is Dano holds a clip of me gagging into a microphone, and I think that should be known. And if you beg him long enough, he might release it. But it was actually really awesome getting to be there with Dano so that he could actually like direct me in the voice acting, because like I'm not a voice actor, all right? I'm not a voice actor. I don't know what I'm doing with voice acting. So it was Damn. So it was it was pretty great having Dano being there to like give me feedback, you know, on the fly, tell me things how I could improve, like how to make it better. Because listen, I I only got 15 words, man. I got like less than 15 words in that episode. I gotta make them all count. It was nice having Dano there so I could accurately, you know, get a decent take for everything, and I think I did good. You know, Royal Pear clearly thinks I do, and he's got like 5 million subscribers. So yeah, I mean, what? Obviously he's correct. Bigger number equals more trustworthy, don't you know? Anyway, I just want to say this. You know, everyone watching this. I don't care what it takes. Make Feric a popular character. I don't care what it takes. I don't care if you make a Stan Twitter account or if you make thirst edits. I don't care what it takes. Make Feric a popular character so I get more screen time. Whatever it takes to make Feric a popular character. I don't care if you make a Stan Twitter account, if you make thirst edits, I don't, or just crazy fan art, yaoi ships with it. I don't care. Whatever it takes, make Feric a popular character so I get more screen time. Okay? Okay? Are we in? Do you understand? I promise, I will lock in the future with Feric, so he'll have even better lines. All right, you gotta trust me. You gotta trust me. I can do it. I can do it. I have what it takes. Next thing I want to really talk about is the things that were going on in our lives while Toon Turf is being made. Dano was working on Toon Turf so much, like in like an insane amount. Hey. Especially near the end. The end is when he really, like in the past month, he's really ramped up production and he was basically working on it 24/7, taking breaks to eat and sleep, and that was it. I didn't really talk to him much. Sometimes he would hop on VC for a little bit. But what I did talk to him for was actually about Toon Turf. I cannot tell you how many times Dano would call me so he could show me and ask for feedback about a scene he had finished, and that was very often. He actually did that throughout pretty much the entirety of Toon Turf's creation. He would finish a scene and then he would call me and ask me like, hey, is this good? Is there anything I can change? You know, what can I do better? And I would always give my honest feedback. I never, if there was one thing I did not want to do was lie, because I know Dano cares so much about this project. He wants to make it as good as it can possibly be. So I didn't sugarcoat anything. Okay, we're doing this. We're really doing this. This is what's happening today. I didn't sugarcoat a single thing. So that, I think it was important for me to be honest. You know, get over here. Get over here. You're not surviving. Thank you. So I saw a lot of the finished lines or not lines, finished scenes pretty early in Toon Turf's genesis, so that was pretty cool. He also would sometimes ask me for help, because like I do. Oh my god, why is everyone playing Fortnite today? I have written a few things in my, like I'm in English to become a writer, so he would actually ask me for advice on certain story elements. So I actually had a little bit of influence on the direction of the story. Again, I want to say Dano did pretty much all of it. Like it's like 98% is Dano's mind, and then maybe 2% is my small inputs. But Dano would come to me, he would call me and ask me for advice on certain things, and whether it was deciding which sprite to use for certain characters or environmental things, or if it was showing me an entire scene and asking me for feedback on it, and it was a lot. He would call me pretty often. I don't think I'm the only one he did that with. There's definitely probably other people he would show that to, but I like to think I was the main one. There is a specific memory. This happened very recent. Oh my god, I have Swift. Oh, I have Swift Sneak. This has actually happened pretty recently, and this was really funny. I've told this story before, but Dano called me one time. It was pretty late at night, and he called me and he said, "Matt, I need your help. I can't decide which bush to use, and I've been spending 2 hours trying to decide which bush to use." and he proceeded to send me 2 images of 2 nearly identical looking bushes that he could not decide which one to use for the actual product. And I told him, okay, all right. First I yelled at him and made fun of him because that's ridiculous. That's what you're really you're stressing so much about a bush. But then, I told him which bush looked better. They were very similar, like extremely similar. Like, you could almost not tell the difference. You could almost not tell the difference, and I think that makes it funnier. And for the record, the bush I picked, I couldn't even find it in the episode. I looked. I watched it 3 times looking for the bush. I couldn't find it. I don't know where the bush is. But that was a funny story. But that type of stuff happened quite often. He would call me and ask me, what should I do, what looks better, stuff like that. Most of actually Toon Turf was spent building the world for it, like building the actual world. Like Toonville itself, that was most of it. And obviously animating takes forever too, I'm not going to deny that. But the first year or so of Toon Turf's production was definitely spent creating Toonville. But that's the type of stuff that he would call me for. He would call me for he would call me to decide on trivial stuff because he's such a perfectionist. Dano is such a perfectionist. He spent literal hours trying to decide which bush looked better, which that is perfectionism 101. But in the end, I think it can't be said that was a bad thing because Toon Turf just looks so good. It's the perfectionism made it better. So there's that. Dano also showed me the finished final scene of Toon Turf. The one where, spoiler alert, by the way, don't click off if you haven't watched it. But the final scene where Billy dies, he actually showed me it, and oh my god, it was absolutely insane. I remember being astonished because I hadn't heard the voice lines before then. I hadn't heard the voice lines of Billy dying before that point, and he had done it for me. He did the voice. I remember one time I was driving him and he was telling me the entire plot of Toon Turf, and he did. Oh shit, I'm out of arrows. And he did the Billy voice of what, and he did the Billy voice, the little whistly voice, and then he did the voice that Billy was gonna have when he was dying, and I got chills, man, when he did it. But I hadn't heard it. I hadn't actually heard the voice line outside of just him doing what he thought he was gonna do. And then when I inevitably saw it, I was like, oh my god, that's insane. That's bone chilling. I was like, this is crazy good. I see a lot of people, saying on Twitter and stuff, I see a lot of people saying that the voice acting for Toon Turf wasn't very good, that they couldn't really take it seriously, and I was sitting there wondering genuinely how. I understand we're not professional voice actors, but, Billy's death scene is still bone-chilling, and I remember when he showed me Billy's death scene, when he initially finished it, and I was like, oh my god, this is insane. That's how I knew Toon Turf was gonna be really good. Obviously I knew it was gonna do well, but I was like, when I saw that, I was like, this is gonna be huge. I can tell because that is such a amazing scene to end off the first episode. Wow. Dano was actually really worried going into the pilot that Billy's death would be too gruesome, and that he was gonna get, oh my god, how am I losing? That Billy's death was too gruesome, and I was like, I had to reassure him, no, it's not too gruesome. It's not skin is melting off. It's pretty tame for someone burning to death. But overall, my involvement with Toon Turf was pretty bare bones. I played the role of a loose editor, is what I would say. He would just occasionally come to me for advice on certain things, and when he was struggling to choose something, a certain, obviously the Bush story is pretty telling, but whenever he was struggling to choose something, he would come to me and ask me what he thought I thought was better, and he would just come to me for certain aspects of advice, and I would tell him, I would be honest with him, and I don't think my presence and my advice and what I contributed to Toon Turf was very influential, was super influential. I think I had a little bit, but obviously 98% of the reason for Toon Turf's success is due to Dano, and I'm not going to take away any of that. I'm not going to take away a single a single bit of Dano's accomplishment here, because like ultimately what I did and what my involvement in Toon Turf was inconsequential compared to what Dano was doing. But it was cool having a little bit of a hand in something so cool and amazing. Oh man. But no, it is actually insane how hard Dano was working for a lot of the time. Like, it got to a point where we were genuinely worried about him, and like I was pushing for him a lot to get therapy, and he never really did it. And it took Leia making him do it for him to go to therapy. And when he went, I remember I was in the car with him right after he got done with therapy for the first time. Actually, no, I called him. It was a phone call. I called him because I was on the way to his house, and he had just finished his first session of therapy, and he was like, "That was amazing." He was like, "I can't believe I wasn't doing this before. Like, that was absolutely, like, it felt so cathartic." So if you ever need any convincing to go to therapy, think about Dano. He was struggling so hard, and genuinely therapy and getting help helped him more than I think he could ever express, which is why his therapist is number 3 on his special thanks list, because like it genuinely had such a big impact on him, therapy in general. And I was really happy that he did go to therapy. I was real happy when he told me that he had gone to therapy. But no, it did get to a point at some point where we were pretty worried about him. Like, me and my other friends, we were pretty worried about him because he was just working so hard. But you know what? I can't say that it if I had to look back. Oh my god, I'm getting jumped. If I had to look back on it, I wish he didn't work nearly as hard and stress nearly as much as he did. But I can't say that it wasn't worth it, because Toon Turf is just so good. I can't say that it wasn't worth it at all. Die. There we go. Oh my god, that dude was rich. He had so many gapples. Why wasn't he spamming them? But anyway, now that I got that little piece of all that out of the way, I want to talk about some of the I want to talk about my review, my honest review of Toon Turf, because okay, look, Toon Turf is very good. It is not perfect. It is not a perfect show. There's definitely some things wrong with it. So I'm going to go over some of the things wrong. I already talked about a little bit about what some people thought about it, the voice acting. I personally think the voice acting was good. Obviously nobody in it is professional voice actors, but I still think we did good nonetheless. So I think voice acting is something that's kind of like a hard complaint, because it kind of feels like almost a nitpick. You know what I mean? It kind of just feels like, oh, it's just not my cup of tea, and not like an actual real critique. I don't know. Maybe I'm projecting and being biased in that because I was one of the voice actors in it, but I feel like voice acting is kind of something that is a little tough to say that it was necessarily bad. The two biggest complaints about Toon Turf is that the pacing felt off, and that, again, spoilers, the pacing felt off, and Billy died too early. And both of those are, I see it. Yeah, no, I get it. I get why you see that. I get why you say that. I want to address both of those from not saying that. I want to address both of those not from like, and I'm not the lead authority on this, so don't sit here and think like, oh, he's saying this, his word is law. But this is just from my perspective and what I believe. First, talking about the pacing. The pacing, a lot of people can't seem to decide if the pacing is too fast or too slow. And don't worry, I'll answer it for you right now. The pacing is too slow. The pacing of Toon Turf is very slow, and it feels like it drags at points. And the reason for that is there are two very long conversations and like lines of and like stretches of dialogue. It is the conversation between Riggy and Billy in Billy's house, and then the conversation between Riggy and the drug addict Fox. Those are the two conversations that take a long time, and they kind of drone on for a really long time. However, I will say that both of those conversations offer a lot of insight into Toon Turf's overall story and what the story of Toon Turf is going to present. So, yeah, those two conversations are very long, and they kind of drone on. And it makes the pacing feel slower than it needed to be, but it will pay off. It will pay off, I promise you. So the biggest complaint and the most valid complaint about Toon Turf is that the pacing felt too slow, and I agree. And Dano agrees, actually. The pacing is very slow. The pacing is slower than it probably could have been. However, I want to say not reiterate. I want to say that this is a pilot. Pilots of TV shows, the first episode of every TV show is always, most of the time, 90% of the time, going to have pacing issues because you have to set up an entire world in one episode. So the pacing is gonna feel off pretty much every time there's a pilot. So I'm not gonna blame Dano for anything, or say that, this was a decision that he could have rectified easily, because it's very hard to make a pilot that is perfectly paced. It's very hard to introduce a story and pace it perfectly. And I also don't think the pacing really affects the story too much. I think it's a critique. It's a critique for sure. But I think it's not like a massive deal, And then there's again, spoilers, I'm saying this so often. And then there's the Billy dying too early. I can see the argument here, and this is genuine. Like, I can see why people argue this. The argument there is that if more time had been left for Billy to be in the story, we could have gotten more attached to his character, and his death would have hit harder. And I agree. That is true. That is absolutely true. 100% true. However, I will say that knowing what I know about Toon Turf and its story, it would be very hard to tell the story in the way that Dano wants to tell it if Billy stayed alive for that much longer. So ultimately, while I think it is true that Billy's death didn't hit as hard if it would have been something that would have happened a couple episodes later, but I think overall the story will still be good and will benefit from Billy's death being this early in the story. And this is something that my friend said, and I agree with this. The episode wouldn't have had as hard-hitting of an ending. The episode ending wouldn't have felt as powerful had Billy not died in that moment. So that's also a big plus, I think. That's also a big argument for Billy dying in the first episode. So while I can agree with the argument of leaving Billy alive, I think knowing what I know about the story, Billy's death benefits the story, as well as it benefits the first episode because the episode ends in a powerful way. I think that's all I have to say about in this video. I would give Toon Turf a solid 8 out of 10. That's maybe 8.5 out of 10, but like 8.5 out of 10. That is I think I've seen a lot of people say that it's an 8 out of 10, and I agree with that. It is very good, especially for an indie pilot. Especially for an indie pilot is really good. And I genuinely, knowing what I know about the story and knowing what's going to be happening, I'm genuinely so excited to see the rest of it come into fruition. And I'm really excited to voice more of Feric. And I do hope that, I hope that I do hope that Feric becomes a popular character so I get more screen time. But yeah, no, it was honestly everything about Toon Turf. It was really fun. Not only was it fun watching it and watching it progress, but it was also fun being a part of it, like being able to be a voice in it, and also having a little bit of insight and a little bit of influence in the direction of the story, as well as even like the direction of kind of like the world around it in the animation. Obviously, again, I'm not taking anything away from Dano. I'm not saying that, I had a massive influence or that I need any credit or anything, but it was cool, having that tiny little bit of influence over the direction of Toon Turf and kind of, how it looks. Because there were certain things that Dano would ask me for my advice on, as I said before, and I'd give him my advice, and he would, he listened to some of it. He didn't listen to all of it, but he listened to some of it, and that was really cool seeing certain little things like that. It was really cool seeing certain little things that was kind of inspired by me and what I had to say, and also like Feric's entire character just being built off of me was really cool because, yeah, that is kind of how I act to people. I feel like the way I talk makes it sound like I had more to do with it than I did. Again, like, I really didn't have much to do with it. Like, ultimately, the advice I gave Dano and my influence was inconsequential, but there were certain little things that I had a hand in, and that's really cool to know and really cool to see. So that's all I just wanted to say. But anyway, let me finish this video not choking and killing this person so I can end this video off. Can I get an ender pearl? Is that something I can grab here? Ah! Oh, I ask and I receive. I'm coming. I'm coming. I'm here. Die. Alright, there we go. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. This was hard to record, man. I lost so many games. But anyway, I got through it. Don't worry. But anyway, hopefully you enjoyed this video. You should, if you're new here, by the way, because I noticed I'm getting a lot of new people coming here. Go watch my other videos, all right? I know some of them are long. I know I'm boring as hell, but come on, watch my videos. You might like it. Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed. I will see you all later. Bye bye. Also, go watch Toon Turf right now.